The curiosity of the Xal'Zir. The Xal'Zir had ruled the outer reaches of the galactic rim for centuries, expanding their influence through precision and calculation rather than brute force. Their technological prowess allowed them to avoid war, predicting conflicts before they could start and ensuring their empire remained unchallenged. They prided themselves on knowledge, gathering intelligence on potential threats long before engagement was necessary. So when the Deep Space Patrol ship Warship detected a human warship drifting near the neutral zone, curiosity overrode caution. The vessel was unlike any the Xal'Zir had seen before. Designated H.S.S. Revenant by its primitive human data signature, it appeared ancient, perhaps even abandoned. Scans showed patches of its hull marred by battle damage, energy signatures flickering as if struggling to remain functional. Its weapons were inactive, its engines barely operational. A relic of a bygone war, left to drift in the void. Captain Xelthar stood in the dim glow of the Warship's command deck, his long, chitinous fingers twitching as he analyzed the readings. This vessel does not match current human military specifications, his second-in-command, Science Officer Rel'Vas noted. Its hull composition is outdated. Its power core is running at minimal efficiency. Xelthar narrowed his eyes. And yet, it still transmits a military designation. Humans do not leave their warships behind without reason. Rel'Vas hesitated. Perhaps it is a trap. Xelthar considered the possibility. The humans were a relatively young species, aggressive and unpredictable, but their war doctrine was crude, brute force over subtlety. Their vessels were built for battle, not deception. Still, caution was the Xal'Zir way. Deploy a long-range probe, Xelthar ordered. Run a passive scan. If this ship holds any secrets, we will uncover them. The probe launched silently into the void, its sleek form gliding toward the Revenant. As it neared, it initiated a standard scan, non-invasive, undetectable to most species. But the moment the probe's sensors locked onto the human vessel, something strange happened. A warning flashed across the Warship's control panels. Unauthorized scan detected. Countermeasures engaged. Before the crew could react, the probe's systems went dark. Every data feed cut out simultaneously, its signal vanishing as if it had never existed. Xelthar's mandibles tightened. What just happened? Rel'Vas' fingers danced over the controls, trying to re-establish a link. The probe has been neutralized, not destroyed. Its systems were forcibly shut down. Xelthar felt a flicker of unease. Was there an energy discharge from the human vessel? None, Rel'Vas confirmed. It did not fire any weapons. It did not even move. Silence fell over the command deck. The Revenant remained exactly where it was, drifting aimlessly, its damaged hull reflecting the faint light of a distant star. It had done nothing, and yet their probe was gone. Xelthar considered his options. This could still be a coincidence, an unfortunate malfunction, but the timing was too perfect. He needed more data. Initiate an active scan, he ordered. Direct from the Warship. I want full readings, energy output, weapons, internal systems. Rel'Vas hesitated. If the ship is truly abandoned, a full scan will not go unnoticed. Then we will learn how dead it truly is. The Warship's powerful sensors activated, bathing the Revenant in a field of scanning waves designed to penetrate even the strongest shielding. For a moment, nothing happened. The readings came in, power fluctuations, failing subsystems, erratic heat signatures. The ship was barely holding together. And then, everything changed. The Revenant's energy output spiked violently, surging from barely detectable levels to full combat readiness in an instant. The ship's dark hull flickered with the glow of active shielding, and its internal systems roared to life. A deep, mechanical voice resonated through the Warship's systems, spoken in perfect Xal'Zir dialect. You have violated the sanctity of a Terran war vessel. The bridge fell into stunned silence. This act is considered an act of hostility. Xelthar's blood ran cold. Countermeasures engaged. The Revenant, which had appeared weak and defenseless, now loomed in the void like a predator stirring from slumber. And the Xal'Zir had just woken it up. The trap is sprung. Panic rippled through the Warship's command deck as alarms blared. The once dormant human warship, H.S.S. Revenant, had gone from a derelict husk to full combat readiness in a matter of seconds. Its energy output had skyrocketed, its shields snapped into place, and its weapon systems, previously assumed to be non-functional, now glowed with ominous power. Captain Xelthar forced himself to remain calm, though his mandibles clicked in agitation. Cut the scan immediately. Disengage from the vessel. Science Officer Relvas was already working at the controls, her fingers a blur. Captain, our systems are unresponsive. Xelthar turned sharply. What? Our main sensors are locked. I can't override. The VRNA case lights flickered, and a wave of static surged through the bridge. Then, every screen on the command deck went black. A new voice replaced the alarms. A voice deep, mechanical, and laced with an eerie calm. Hostile scan detected. Electronic warfare protocols activated. Then, chaos. Every console on the VRNA flashed error codes. The artificial gravity wavered for a split second before stabilizing. The ship's engines sputtered as power fluctuations surged through the core. The Xal'Zir crew scrambled at their stations, desperately trying to regain control. We are being hacked, Relvas shouted, her voice tight with fear. The human vessel is overriding our systems. That should have been impossible. The Xal'Zir were masters of information warfare. Their encryption was generations ahead of most species. And yet, the Revenant had infiltrated their ship's systems within moments. Xelthar's mind raced. The Revenant's condition had been a deception. Its damaged exterior, its flickering power signatures, all an elaborate ruse. The humans had baited them into scanning it. And now, they were trapped. Shut down all external data links, he barked. Physically sever the connections if you have to. Relvas and her team worked frantically, manually disconnecting key systems, but it was too late. The VRNA case screens flared back to life, not with their own system interface, but with something else. A flood of images filled their monitors. Battlefields scorched beyond recognition. Human fleets tearing through alien armadas with brutal efficiency. Planets reduced to cinders. Ground forces clad in massive combat armor, wading through enemy fire with relentless determination. Tactical readouts displaying casualty rates and a chilling indifference to them. It wasn't just a show of force. It was a message. This was how humans waged war. A cold dread settled over the bridge. Xelthar knew why the Revenant was doing this. The humans weren't just demonstrating their power. They were ensuring that the Xal'Zir understood what would happen if they ever became an enemy. And then, the voice returned. You are now aware of what we are capable of. You have one chance to disengage and depart. The images vanished, replaced by a tactical overlay. It showed the Revenant moving, turning slowly to face them. For the first time in his career, Xelthar felt true fear. The human ship is targeting us, Relvas cried. Weapons systems primed. Xelthar had no doubts. If the Revenant fired, the VRONAK wouldn't survive. Not because it outgunned them, but because it had already won. They were helpless. A Xal'Zir captain should never retreat. Their doctrine demanded control, superiority. And yet, Xelthar knew there was only one choice. He clenched his mandibles. Disengage all combat protocols. We retreat. Relvas hesitated but obeyed. As soon as their systems rebooted, Xelthar ordered a full withdrawal. The VRNA's engines roared back to life, and they turned away from the human warship as fast as their propulsion allowed. Behind them, the Revenant did not pursue. It simply remained in place, watching, as if waiting for the next fool to challenge it. The Predator awakens. The VRONAK sped away from the H.S.S. Revenant at full thrust, but the weight of dread still hung over Captain Xelthar. Though they had severed the hostile connection, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had been allowed to leave. The human warship had disabled them effortlessly. If it had wanted to, It could have destroyed them before they even realized what was happening. Xelthar turned to Science Officer Relvas, who was frantically running diagnostics. Status report. She exhaled sharply, mandibles twitching. Our main systems are stabilizing, but our security firewalls have been rewritten. Xelthar stiffened. Explain. Relvas hesitated, then brought up a display on the central console. The VRNAK's entire security architecture had changed. Human script was embedded in their code, a digital signature of the Revenant's intrusion. They didn't just shut us down, she said, her voice low. They altered us. They could have left a backdoor, hidden surveillance, or worse. We won't know the full extent of what they did until we run a complete purge. Xelthar clenched his fists. This was not just an attack. It was a demonstration. A warning. Then, another alert flashed across their consoles. Warning. Anomalous pursuit signature detected. Xelthar's stomach dropped. What? Relvas' hands flew over the controls. Captain, the Revenant is following us. Xelthar turned to the main viewport. There, against the darkness of space, the H.S.S. Revenant loomed in the distance, its black hull barely reflecting the distant starlight. It wasn't chasing them at full speed. It was pacing them, moving with the patience of a predator tracking wounded prey. A chill settled over the bridge. It's studying us, Relvas whispered. Xelthar gritted his teeth. Prepare weapons. Captain, I will not be hunted, Xelthar snapped. If it intends to finish us, we will make them bleed for it. But as his weapons officer moved to comply, the Revenant acted first. The human ship launched a single, silent pulse. No weapons fire. No projectiles. Just a ripple of invisible energy that passed through the VRNAK's shields like they weren't even there. Then, every single light aboard the Xal'Zir warship flickered out. For a full 5 seconds, there was nothing but darkness and silence. No systems, no engines, no weapons, just a cold void pressing in around them. When the lights snapped back on, frantic reports flooded in. All propulsion offline. Shields are gone. Weapons unresponsive. Artificial gravity fluctuating. Xelthar's breath came fast. He felt the terrible realization settle over him like a weight. The Revenant hadn't fired a shot. It hadn't needed to. It had simply turned them off. Then, the voice returned. Your systems are now restored. This was a demonstration of restraint. The bridge crew stood frozen. Xelthar could feel the unspoken fear radiating from them. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. A pause. Leave. Now. Xelthar had never felt such a deep, instinctual need to flee. He turned to his helmsman. Get us out of here. Full speed. The VRNAK roared to life as the engines reignited. This time, the Revenant did not follow. It merely hung in the void, watching them vanish into the distance, as if it had been toying with them all along. The lesson learned. The VRNAK limped back into Xal'Zir-controlled space, its systems still undergoing repairs after the encounter with the human warship. Captain Xelthar sat rigid in the command chair, his claws tightening around the armrests as he stared at the distorted image of the High Council on the hollow display before him. The Xal'Zir were a species that thrived on control, of knowledge, of technology, of war. But today, control had been ripped from their grasp. Repeat your report, Captain, Supreme Strategist Holon ordered, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. Xelthar's mandibles clicked in frustration. He had already given them every detail. The derelict appearance of the human ship, its unexpected awakening, the infiltration of their systems, and the effortless way it had disabled their warship without firing a single shot. When he finished, a heavy silence settled over the council chamber. Finally, High Researcher Xal'Zir leaned forward. Are you certain the vessel was acting independently? Could this be the work of an external intelligence? Some kind of automated defense system? Xelthar resisted the urge to lash his tail in frustration. The Revenant spoke to us directly. It understood our language. It responded to our actions with precise, calculated force. His voice lowered. It was aware of us. The strategists exchanged uneasy glances. The Xal'Zir had encountered countless species in their centuries of expansion, but none had ever demonstrated this level of deliberate psychological warfare. High Warlord Xelthar broke the silence with a deep, guttural hiss. It allowed you to leave. Xelthar nodded. Yes, but not before ensuring we understood its capabilities. He glanced at the research division. They could have destroyed us instantly, yet they chose to make a statement. That means they wanted us to spread the message. Supreme Strategist Holon's expression darkened. Then the question is, what message? Xelthar's voice was quiet. That we are not the predators we believed ourselves to be. Another silence. Xelthar's mandibles twitched. Are you suggesting that we fear the humans? Xelthar met the warlord's gaze. I'm suggesting that we recognize their true nature. The Xal'Zir had assumed humans were like any other expansionist species, aggressive but straightforward, powerful but predictable. But the Revenant had demonstrated something far worse than raw strength. It had shown restraint. It had revealed just enough to ensure the Xal'Zir understood that next time, they would not be so lucky. High Researcher Xelthar exhaled, his frills flattening. We have two choices. We either classify the humans as an imminent threat and prepare for preemptive action, or we ensure that we never provoke them again. Holon steepled his claws. A war against humanity would be costly. It would be suicide, Xelthar corrected. If one ship can disable our systems effortlessly, what do you think an entire fleet could do? The High Warlord's mandibles twitched, but he did not argue. Finally, Holon made his decision. Then we will not engage humanity in conflict. We will monitor them, observe them, but we will not challenge them. His gaze hardened. From this moment forward, any unauthorized scan of a human warship will be punishable by death. Xelthar exhaled, relief and unease warring within him. It was the right choice. But as the council adjourned and the hollow display faded, one thought lingered in his mind. The Revenant had been waiting for them. It had been bait. And that meant one thing. Humanity was not just prepared for war. They were expecting it.